Let's talk about promises. We're taught from childhood that a promise is sacred, that your word is your bond, that to break one is a moral failure, a character flaw, a sin. This is a fairy tale. A necessary one for children, perhaps, but a fairy tale nonetheless. For the adult navigating the real world, a world of power, survival, and brutal competition, this childish dogma is a leash. And today, we are going to cut that leash. We are going to explore the philosophy of Niccolò Machiavelli on when to break a promise. Not through a historical lens, but through the cold, hard glass of our present reality. This will be uncomfortable. This will feel cynical. But above all, it will be honest. To understand this, you must first erase the idea that Machiavelli was evil. He wasn't. He was a realist. He observed the world not as we wish it would be, but as it actually is. His core question was never is it good to be good? It was what is effective? What action leads to success, stability, and power? In his view, virtue, being seen as a good, honest, promise-keeping person, is a tool, not a destination. It's a means to an end. A promise, therefore, is not a sacred vow, it is a strategic instrument. It is a transaction where you trade your future credibility for a present advantage. The decision to break it is not a moral one, but a calculative one, like a general abandoning a losing battle to save his army. You break a promise for one reason, and one reason only, when the cost of keeping it catastrophically outweighs the cost of breaking it. When adhering to your word would lead to your ruin, your obsolescence, or your defeat, the intelligent individual recalculates. Loyalty is to an outcome, to a larger goal, not to a statement you made in the past when you had less information, different circumstances, or less power. The world is fluid. Your promises must be fluid too, or you will drown in your own outdated word. Let's make this concrete. Consider the modern workplace. You are a middle manager. Morale is low. To motivate your team to deliver a brutal project on an impossible deadline, you stand before them and promise a significant, tangible bonus if they succeed. They believe you. They kill themselves for weeks. They neglect their families, their health. They deliver the project ahead of schedule, saving the company a fortune. But between the time you made that promise and now, the company's quarterly earnings have cratered. A memo comes down from the highest level, all discretionary spending is frozen. To keep your promise, you would have to fight a political war you cannot win, or worse. You'd have to lay off 2 members of that very team to afford the bonuses for the rest. The moral choice is to keep your promise. You become a martyr. You might even get fired for insubordination. The 2 fired employees are victims of your integrity. The remaining team, though paid, now works in a climate of fear and resentment. The Machiavellian choice is to break the promise. You call the team together. You do not apologize profusely, that shows weakness and admits fault. You explain the brutal, new reality with firmness and clarity. You say, the situation has changed. The bonus I promised is no longer financially possible without causing greater harm to this team. My priority now is preserving every job in this department. The promise is void. You have sacrificed short-term credibility as a nice guy for long-term credibility as a clear-eyed leader who makes hard choices to ensure the unit's survival. You broke a small promise to keep a larger, unspoken one, your promise to ensure the department's stability. Now, look at the very top of the business world. In the cutthroat arena of startups and venture capital, this is the daily bread. A founder is pitching to a massive investment firm. The investor asks, "Do you have the AI integration functional?" The founder knows it's just a concept on a slide. He knows that saying no ends the meeting. So he says, "Yes, it's in advanced beta. We'll have a demo for you next month." He has just made a promise he cannot currently keep. The moment the investment money hits the bank account, he has broken that promise. His new mission is to use that capital to desperately build what he promised, or to pivot and justify the new direction as a superior evolution. He is not judged on the broken promise if he ultimately delivers a massive return on investment. He is judged on the outcome. We celebrate these people. We call them visionaries and disruptors. We save our contempt for the ones who break promises and fail. The promise itself is irrelevant, only the result matters. This same ruthless calculus applies to parenting, though it makes people deeply uncomfortable. You promise your child you will take them to the amusement park on Saturday if they behave all week. They are perfect. They earn it. But on Friday, your boss, the one who decides promotions, demands you come in on Saturday for a critical, unexpected meeting with a major client. This meeting will determine your next promotion, a raise that would finally allow you to save for your child's college fund. The moralistic parent, the slave to their promise, goes to the park. They attend the meeting on their phone, distracted and unable to contribute meaningfully. They fail to impress, jeopardizing the family's long-term financial trajectory for a short-term amusement. The Machiavellian parent breaks the promise. They sit the child down. They look them in the eye and say, "A new priority has emerged that ensures our family's security." The world changed. The trip is postponed. This is not a punishment, it is a necessary change of plans. The child is disappointed, but they learn a far more valuable lesson than the sanctity of a promise. They learn pragmatism. They learn that adaptability trumps rigid dogma, and that obligations to the family's power and position sometimes must come before sentimental attachments. You are not raising a child, you are raising a future adult who must navigate a complex world. You teach them that while promises are important, survival and advancement are more important. On the largest scale, observe the geopolitical stage. This is Machiavelli's chessboard. Nations sign grand climate accords, trade agreements, and mutual defense treaties. These are promises on a global scale. A national leader keeps them only so long as they serve the national interest. The moment that calculation shifts, when a rival nation secretly gains a technological advantage, when domestic economic pressure overrides global environmental concerns, when a new administration calculates that an old treaty is a strategic disadvantage, the promise is publicly shredded. The language is never "we are breaking our promise." It is "we are withdrawing from an unfair deal that no longer serves our citizens' interests." This is not seen as hypocrisy by the successful leader, it is celebrated as strong, pragmatic leadership. The leader who stubbornly adheres to a bad deal for the sake of keeping his word is not virtuous. He is a fool, willingly presiding over his nation's economic or strategic decline. His promise becomes his epitaph. Even in school and academia, the principle holds power. A university professor, on the first day of class, promises a certain grading curve on the final exam. But the class performs so dismally that adhering to the promised curve would mean passing a large number of students who have demonstrably not mastered the core material. This devalues the institution's degree, hurts the reputation of the program, and ultimately harms the qualified students. Does the ethical professor keep the promise and pass the incompetent, compromising the entire system's integrity? Or does he break the promise, enforce a stricter, more realistic standard, and preserve the value, and thus the market power, of the qualification? He breaks the promise. He understands that his deeper, unspoken promise is to the standard of excellence and to the future success of his capable students, not to a specific grading policy he proposed before he understood the depth of the class's failure. This philosophy extends to your personal relationships, and this is its most dangerous and controversial application. You promise a friend you will help them move apartments on a specific day. You gave your word. Then, a once-in-a-lifetime career opportunity arises for that exact same day, a networking event with key industry leaders, or a chance to impress a mentor. The moralistic person helps move, all the while resenting the friend and agonizing over the lost opportunity. Their help is half-hearted, and their mind is elsewhere. The Machiavellian person breaks the promise. They call the friend and say, "An opportunity has come up that is critical for my career. I cannot help you move. I will instead pay for 2 professional movers to be there for the entire day. It will actually be easier and faster for you." They have prioritized a seismic shift in their own power trajectory over the minor social friction of a broken promise. They understand that a true friend should want your advancement and should understand the necessity of the choice. If the friend reacts with fury and ends the relationship, it was never a relationship based on mutual respect for advancement, but one based on transactional favor trading. The broken promise acts as a brutal but efficient filter for the relationships in your life, separating those who support your growth from those who merely want to use your reliability. The key to breaking a promise effectively is not in the act itself, but in the masterful management of the aftermath. You cannot simply vanish or offer a weak, groveling apology. The apology is worthless, it only highlights your failure and gives the other party power over you. Justification is also weakness, it invites debate. Instead, you must reframe the entire event. You control the narrative. You present the broken promise not as a failure of character, but as a necessary, decisive response to a changed landscape. You use strong, declarative language. In light of new information, the previous arrangement is no longer viable. To ensure our primary objective is met, we must adapt our strategy. The circumstances have fundamentally shifted, and my decision reflects that new reality. You are not sorry, you are adaptive. You are not weak, you are a clear-eyed leader making a tough call. This ability to break promises without destroying your reputation requires an immense amount of power or perceived power. You can break a promise to an employee far more easily than you can break one to your CEO or biggest client. The cost calculation is entirely different. Therefore, a core Machiavellian principle is to always, relentlessly be increasing your own power, your skills, your network, your wealth, your value. Your goal is to reach a position where your value to others is so high that they will accept your broken promises. They will tolerate the inconsistency because your power makes them believe that your next promise, your next project, your next idea might be so valuable that it's worth the risk. They need what you offer more than they need you to be consistently nice. The modern world, with its rapid, dizzying pace of change, information overload, and incredibly short collective memory, is the perfect environment for this philosophy. A promise made 6 months ago can be rendered utterly obsolete by a sudden market crash, a disruptive new technology, a viral social movement, or a personal crisis. The person who clings to the old word, who values consistency over results, is a dinosaur. They are left behind. The agile player, the Machiavellian prince or princess of today, assesses the new board with cold eyes, makes a new calculation, and makes a new move, utterly unshackled by the past. They understand that in a world that moves this fast, the greatest liability is not a broken promise, but a rigid mind. Ultimately, this is about redefining what it means to be responsible. The common person thinks responsibility means keeping your word no matter what. The Machiavellian knows true responsibility is achieving the best possible outcome, no matter what you previously said you would do. It is a heavier burden because it places the weight of the outcome entirely on your shoulders, freeing you from the rules but enslaving you to the result. Your word is not your bond. Your success is your bond. Your power is your bond. Your ability to navigate a complex and treacherous world and come out on top is the only thing that truly matters. Everything else is just conversation, so where does this leave us? It leaves us with a single, clarifying question that you must ask yourself from this moment forward. The question is not, am I a good person for keeping my promise? The only question that matters, the only calculation that has any meaning in the real world, is this: does this promise serve my power, or does it serve my weakness? A promise kept out of obligation, fear, or a slavish devotion to a childish ideal is a promise that serves your weakness. It chains you to a past version of yourself who could not see the future. It makes you a servant to your word, rather than a master of your destiny, but a promise broken strategically, decisively, and without apology because the circumstances have fundamentally changed, that is a promise broken in service of your power. It announces to the world that you are not a prisoner of yesterday's words. You are an architect of tomorrow's reality. Your loyalty is not to a statement, but to a result. Your integrity is not measured in promises kept, but in battles won and stability maintained. This is the final truth. In the end, you will not be remembered for how well you kept your promises. You will be remembered for what you built, what you protected, and what you achieved. The promises you broke along the way will be footnotes, forgotten by everyone but the weak who clung to them. History is written by those who had the courage to do what was necessary, not what was nice. The world does not reward the promise keeper. It rewards the winner. Choose to win. This is the deepest end of the pool. The most uncomfortable truth. We have laid the groundwork with promises and fear. Now, we must examine the ultimate instrument of power. If you have followed us this far, you know we do not shy away from the darkest, most effective truths. Subscribe. Because in our next video, we will dissect Machiavelli's most brutal and misunderstood doctrine, the necessity of violence.